I'm Charles Knippen, President of the National Society of Leadership and Success, and I'd like to welcome you to our next episode in our web series, Leading from Home. And today's topic, being brave and breaking the shackles of insecurity. And today we have a special guest joining us, Reshma Saujani.
I was the first Indian American woman to run for office. Through my political campaign, I really saw that many young women in our city and in our country weren't getting access to opportunity.
And that's how I started Girls Who Code.
Because I thought that if we actually built sisterhood together, that we could build the most amazing future together. We live in a world or a society where we used to have a Barbie doll that said, "I hate math, let's go shopping instead." We literally live in a culture that is telling girls, this is not for you. Math is not for you. Bravery is about joy. Joy to do the things that you want to do.
It turns out that when you get a taste of being brave, it's kind of hard to stop. It's like a rush.
We have to socialize our girls to be comfortable with imperfection, and we gotta do it now. Because when we teach girls to be imperfect and we help them leverage it, we will build a movement of young women who are brave and who will build a better world for themselves and for each and every one of us.
Reshma, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, before we jump into our questions, I do want to tell our viewers today, for you, you can do two things to participate live with us. First, if you have a question, we want to encourage you, put it into the comments section. Our team will be reviewing those questions and we'll be getting to those towards the end of our time with Reshma today. Second, just like any good NSLS event, we want to make sure that we're giving an opportunity for you to win some prizes. So if you would like to win one of 5 books from Reshma, her book, Brave, Not Perfect, just tag the NSLS with your question. With your takeaway or your comment from today's conversation with Reshma. Again, you can tag us, the NSLS, with your takeaway or your comment. All right, Reshma, you ready to jump into this?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we serve a nation of over 700 colleges and over 1.2 million members with our programs, the National Society of Leadership and Success. And one of the things I want to talk about today is your college major. And for students, there's a lot of different motivating factors. I want to understand from you, what inspired you to pursue political science and then go on to law school?
I mean, I was always an activist. You know, my parents came here as political refugees in 1973. I led my first march when I was 13 years old. I was on Model UN, captain my debate team. Like, I always had a point I wanted to make and a fight that I was fighting for or a person that I wanted to stand up for. And so for me, like, politics was like my love. It's always been my love. And that's why I majored in poli-sci and speech communications, because so much of, I think, movement building, and maybe I realized it more then than I gave myself credit for, was being able to like tell a story and communicate what you're trying to say and like move people along with you.
That's awesome. Wow. Again, there's just so many reasons why students choose, and it sounds like you were so grounded and it was just introduced to you very early. So that's really great that you're able to find that passion. But so you went to law school, you then actually practiced law, but then you decided to run for public office. Did you see this as a brave decision at that time?
I did. I mean, I was $300,000 in student loan debt. So I know all the folks that are watching this live can relate. And I thought that instead of following my dream, I would take that fancy job working for the man, and in a year or two, I'd take off those golden handcuffs and go do what I was meant to do. And 1 year turned into 10, and I found myself a decade later still in debt, but I found myself in this job I hated and in a life I didn't want, and I felt really stuck. And I was in my early 30s, and I kept saying to myself, like, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? And it was kind of felt like now or never. And I always knew that I wanted to serve. And so I decided to run for United States Congress in a Democratic primary against an 18-year incumbent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I basically did what Ocasio did 10 years earlier, but she won and I lost. And it was the most amazing 10 months of my life. But of course, when I was sitting there at my victory party that never ended up happening, I was crushed. I got lost. I was cremated. I was broke. I was humiliated. I had pissed off everybody in the Democratic establishment. But the first thing I thought when I woke up in the morning was, oh my God, I'm not broken. Like, I'm not broken.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, wow, what are all the other things that I didn't have a risk tolerance for, that I told myself I, needed to give up before I tried because I was worried that failure would break me.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other things, right, that I have passed up in life? Yeah. And that's what kind of led me to Girls Who Code. I was really passionate about opportunity as the daughter of refugees, and it felt like tech in this sector was booming, and that you could make a lot of money, being a software programmer, and Girls Who Code. And that's how I started. It was really just a problem I was interested in solving.
And so when you did that, what was that vision that you had for that group that you were creating at that time?
Yeah, like I tell young folks all the time, it was very simple. I spent about 1.5 years thinking about why there weren't women in tech. Why was less than 19% of the technology workforce female? Why weren't we teaching computer science in schools? Why were, little girls turned off being a computer scientist or an innovator or a builder? And I talked to a lot of people. Every lunch break, every evening, I would either have a lunch or a coffee or a drink with somebody that was in this space, and I would learn. And I, through 1.5 years, started kind of building what I thought the idea was, which was a summer camp for 20 girls that was embedded in a tech company where girls would learn how to code, and it would result in them building something. So when I launched my first program, it was literally just like a pilot. Like, I hand recruited my 20 girls like a community organizer. I borrowed a friend's conference room. I bought pizza, and I gave each of them $50 in hopes that they would just make it through the whole summer. I didn't say, oh, I'm building a nonprofit. I'm building a movement. I want to teach 1 million. That came later.
Oh, wow.
The first step was just an idea and testing an idea. And I do feel like I learned that skill set with my Kennedy School degree, my public policy degree, because I learned how to just think about an idea, come up with what a solution could look like, and then test it.
Well, let me ask you that, because that actually is a big question, because a lot of our students and our viewers probably have a big idea brewing in their minds right now about what they want to accomplish, whether that's financially or their legacy, whatever that is. What is one step that you look back on and you go, this is what allowed my big idea to turn into something? What is something that you'd recommend to somebody who has that big idea right now?
I bought the URL. I thought Girls Who Code, that's a cool name. Went on GoDaddy.com and I bought it for $1.99. And then the second thing I did was, like, I got a big mouth. So I'd be at like a dinner party and people would be like, what are you working on? And I'm like, oh, I'm starting this program, Teach Girls to Code. And I just told too many people. And then I had to do it. It's like, I'm not a quitter. Yep. So, but it was, it was not something that happened overnight. It was I have always been someone since the time I was a little girl that had a job and then my side hustle, right? I was a dog walker or, Baskin Robbins, Subway. I sold sweaters, but then I had this thing at night that I would like think about and work on and be passionate about. And so that's why I tell people all the time, like, a lot of us got to pay the bills, right? We got student loan debt, especially in this moment right now. So have the thing that you need to do to like put food on the table, but then figure out what your side hustle is. Don't ever let your dream or the thing that you're moved by die.
Love it. And your dream, what you were moved by, has inspired, obviously, a worldwide movement. And we want to get to our first video question from Victoria at NJCU. She's one of your fans and has a question for you today.
Hi, Reshma and the NSLS community. My name is Victoria Johnston, and I am an honors computer science student at New Jersey City University, as well as an inducted member of the NSLS. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My question for you today is, how can we learn as women who are pursuing a career in computer science and technology to embrace our failures, even though we may feel like we are marginalized in both academic classrooms or in the future workforce? Thank you so much for your opportunity. I've been reading your book, Brave, Not Perfect, and I feel like it's a great addition for women who are pursuing CS and how to live a life that's more bold and brave and not perfectionist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a big fan there.
You just made my Friday. Thank you. It's a great question. Like, I think that, look, we have to continue to fight structures of racism and sexism that absolutely exist in the technology community and in many industries. But the thing that we also have to do is like tell that voice in our head that tells us that we're not good enough, that we're not ready, that we should pass up that opportunity to just be quiet. And for me, like growing up as the daughter of refugees, working class, like that voice was very loud for me. I'd go into places. I applied to Yale Law School 3 times before I got in. I'd go into my classroom and I could not raise my hand because everybody around me I thought were smarter than me, that were more prepared than me. And one of the things that I think is really a gift has been failure, right?
Mhm.
Because failure taught me to build resiliency and also made me realize that my potential and that I belong. One of the biggest gifts of this COVID crisis to each and every single one of you is that you are going to be the most resilient generation that has ever existed in American history, right? You are going to have lived through this, inherited the most divided nation. That the fabric of our community is just broken in half. And you are going to inherit that, and you are going to build resiliency, and you are going to like soar like no other generation. And so to me, it's like the gift of failure and the gift of resiliency has played a huge role in my life.
But the resiliency messages that are being given to people, and I will say men and women, seem to be different. And you've spoken on that in the past, where society kind of grooms men to be brave and to resiliency, where it grooms women to be perfect. So what does that mean for you, maybe in this time or just overall, and what messages do you have for the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that go to any playground, you'll see what I'm talking about. Right? We tell our boys to climb to the top of the monkey bars and just jump head first. I have 2 sons, so I know this. But we tell our girls, be careful, honey. Don't swing too high. Did you take that toy away from her? From the youngest of possible ages, we are literally wrapping our girls up in bubble wrap. And it starts because we want to physically protect them. There's something about us that we don't want our daughters to get hurt. And then it extends into emotional protection. If they're bad at soccer, we pull them out and we put them into gymnastics, right? We never want them to feel failure or rejection. So when they first feel it, and oftentimes the first time they feel it is in college, it feels personal. And it's why it creates anxiety. It's why we have so many college-age women that are medicated right now, that are anxious, and they're dealing with real mental health issues. And to me, I think some of that stems from the fact that we just haven't prepared our girls in the way that we've prepared our boys for strife, for pain, for failure, right? And then, we've rewarded our girls for succeeding, for getting that A, for being a superstar, for being, 5'11", a size 2, and a brilliant neuroscientist. So there's all this pressure that we put, on girls. And what happens is in the real world, none of that actually matters. Carol Dweck has this great line that, if life were one long grade school, girls would rule the world. And suddenly we show up to the workplace and we've done everything right. We're the first one in the office. We do all of our assignments. We, bake cookies for the office Christmas party. But why aren't we getting promoted? Why are we not giving the same opportunities that the Joe sitting next to me is? Because the rules are different. And we've been playing by in a very different game than the one that is played in the real world.
And at that, with those different rules, but then also for those women in those situations, they can begin to doubt themselves.
Yeah.
So, in that moment, Reshma, what is that suggestion that you're giving? How does a female overcome that doubt that they may have in themselves when they don't see themselves progressing, don't see themselves achieving the things that they want to? What is your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the examples I give in my TED Talk is in computer science classes. Professors will tell me that when the guys are struggling with the assignment, they'll come into office hours and they'll say, the computer's broken. The computer's broken. And girls will come in, women will come in and will say, I'm broken. What's wrong with me? So I think it really begins by, for me, unlearning perfectionism, right? Again, clamping down that voice that tells you that you are not good enough and you are not strong enough. I think the second thing is about really practicing imperfection. We do everything to 110%. So when we get that offer to go take that new opportunity, if we in our heads can't see how we can execute it perfectly, we don't bother to say yes. And so in your life, start practicing imperfection. Like I tell women, send an email with a typo in it. Send an email with a typo in it. Everyone freaks out, right? Because women spend countless hours just, rereading and rewriting our emails. Stop doing that. Secondly, when you're in a class and it's time for a question and answer, just raise your hand, right? Just raise your hand. Men speak 80% more in classrooms than women speak. Because what happens is people think that we have nothing to say. Mm-hmm. And we're frustrated because Joe next to us said the very same thing that we were going to say. And so like get in the habit of just raising your hand. Stop saying sorry. Every woman I know is walking down the street, someone will bump into you and you'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry." For what? Right. And so it's like, again, get yourself out of these patterns and first just watch them and notice when you do them. And then give yourself, basically once a week, I'm going to take time for myself. I'm going to stop saying sorry. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to, not show up to that Zoom call. Perfect. I'm going to type in the chat discussion the first thing that comes to my mind. Start practicing some of these behaviors because, I believe ultimately bravery is a muscle. Like it is a muscle that we build. And let me tell you something, this. We are in the hardest period of our history of our country than we've ever been. And we need people to come out of this brave and courageous, not just for this moment, but when we get out. And so I am encouraging everybody, women and men, right, to in this moment, build your bravery muscles. Take this time to look at yourself, your habits, and ask yourself, why do I do that? What is that really about for me? And try new things.
And that really parlays into the short-term things that we can do can make a long-lasting impact in our lives and what we leave behind. Because for a lot of people, they're rethinking what's important in their life right now. And that kind of leads me to my next question for you. What's your legacy? When you're thinking 30, 50, 100 years from now, and people can think back on what you accomplished, what is that legacy? And what's your suggestion for people, our viewers today, in terms of how they can form their own?
Yeah, I mean, I always say I'm like a serial failed politician. Like, find me an election and I'll lose it. And the reason why I wanted to be a public servant is that I wanted to give back. I wanted to, my parents had been given so much by being, given the opportunity to come to this country that I wanted to give back. And what I have realized is my proudest thing that I've done is my girls. Are my students. And sometimes like when I'm feeling down, I will literally just go in and I will Google Girls Who Code. So I get to read about all the amazing things that my students are doing. I did that this morning. I needed a little pick me up this morning. And I read about one of my students, a group of a Girls Who Code community that had won a digital competition in Wyoming. I read about one of my students who, during COVID-19, she's basically 3D printing, PPP equipment, for healthcare workers. I read one of my students who just won, a contest, she's majoring in computer science at Ohio State and had just won a contest about a program she was building called Stop the Hate. I mean, I literally could scroll down, just a day's worth of news of all of these girls that I've never met before. That like have never met me and have somehow, some way been affected by Girls Who Code. And even more deeply than that, they are making the world a better place. And so even though I couldn't do that in the halls of Congress, they're doing that in the halls of the world. And that makes me feel so damn proud and like makes everything, all of it, just worth it. And especially in this moment right now, I mean, I'm sure you're deeply in this. It's like, the people that are getting the most affected are students, are young people, especially young people without means. And so for those of us in this education space, like we got to double down on them and, we got to fight for them. People aren't thinking about the educational crisis that COVID is creating. They're thinking about the health crisis and they're thinking about the economy right now. But like, to me, it's like, we got to start thinking about education soon because every year, every week, every month that goes by, we're leaving someone behind. And we've made so much progress that I'm not going back. Like, I always say, like, I'm not going down like that. Like, Work way too hard to get so close to parity, to get so many incredible women like Victoria, incredible women of color, like who are going to, build a next, spaceship to like to Mars or build, find a cure to COVID, right? They're doing incredible things. And we just have to make sure that all the progress that we've made, that we don't go backwards because of this. We're not paying attention.
And especially with the time of uncertainty that we're in right now, there is that opportunity for us to take that step backwards, that we need to be continuing that move forward. So thank you for that. Our next question comes from another video. Megan from Southern New Hampshire University has another question for you.
Hi, this is Megan Mazon from Southern New Hampshire University, and my question for you is, what advice or tips would you give to someone who is just entering the field, maybe somebody that just graduated, and employers are looking for years of experience, but you don't have that? What is your advice on that? Thank you.
Such a great question.
Yeah, what a big question.
And I was actually just talking to somebody in industry yesterday, because I find, Megan, that this happens a lot. You're not alone, right? A lot of our students are applying to companies and are hearing back, well, you don't have the right skill set, or you're not prepared yet. And so I think industry actually needs to do a better job of basically communicating what they're looking for, and especially communicating that to universities if they feel that students are not coming out prepared. But that being said, I think what you'll find especially is digitization, automation is happening quicker than we had thought in every single industry. We are desperately going to be seeking engineers and entry-level engineers who have the exact same skill set that you have, Megan. So you hold tight. You are good enough, prepared enough, ready enough. You will find the right opportunity. You don't have to go back and retrain yourself, as we often tell women that they should, which is just false. Those opportunities are coming, because I'm telling you, the number one skill set that you can have right now is a skill set in coding and technology.
Absolutely. And, it's amazing to see the field just continue to blossom for women, but not at the pace that I think we all would want it to be. Yeah. But I want to ask you a selfish favor / question, kind of pulling into Megan's question. We have, from our million members, we have 20,000 female technology members. And I would like to share with them and to our viewers today, what is the piece of advice that you wish you would have known in college that you know now, and that would have made the biggest impact on you?
I think it's to be brave, not perfect. For so long, I went to the schools I was supposed to go to, worked at the jobs that I was supposed to go to, put that other notch on my belt, were too focused on opportunities that didn't happen or didn't come to me that I didn't actually really even need. I chased a Yale law degree because I thought that would make me feel smart, or that would make people think that I was worthy of opportunities. And I just spent so much time chasing credentials and chasing perfection that I never really spent the time on figuring out, what do I love? What am I good at? And what do I love that I'm good at? Because those are two different things. I think oftentimes as women, we get stuck in opportunities, jobs, relationships that we're good at, but we're not passionate about. And if I had followed my passion, which was very, very, very clear from the time that I was 12 years old, if I had followed my passion instead of degrees and credentials and pedigrees, I would have got to being a change maker much quicker. And that's what I would say to you. And the only way that happens is by pursuing bravery and by pursuing imperfection. And I think a great example of this are athletes, right? Athletes often live at the edge of their athletes often live at the edge of their ability in critical feedback, right? They have a coach who's saying, do it again, do it again, do it again. Right? They're welcoming new opportunities. They're welcoming failure. My son loves to get something wrong and be like, Mommy, let me do it. Let me figure it out. Right? I didn't have that. And it was because somewhere along the way, probably around 8 years old, right? I picked up on that cue that I'm going to be, when I do something good, I'm praised and people like me. And so instead of pursuing people liking you, pursue the thing that you love.
I don't think it can get any simpler than that, but it's so hard for our students to do that. And to those messages that, women are being shared, we have to remind our own 8-year-old daughter every day, it's okay to be smart. It's okay to be the first one with the answer. It's okay to raise your hand. And it's unfortunate that, again, whatever the system is, whatever has impacted her, but we want her to be proud, to be that first one to stand up and step forward like you've been talking about.
And that's my message for all the women who are listening right now. You're not crazy. You're not crazy that you feel this way, you do these things, because we've been socialized that way.
Yep.
It's so interesting. Like, we are at a moment right now in this world we're in where we are literally rethinking every structure, everything. Let's rethink that. Like, let's rethink the way that we've been raised, and let's rethink the way that we're operating right now. It's never too late. I get a lot of women who will take my book and they'll be like, I can't wait to give this to my daughter. I was like, no, honey, you read it. You read it. Because they're watching you and they're mimicking you. It starts with us, right? It starts with us.
I love it. All right. So I want to get to our live questions today. So we are having questions come in. I've got 3 for you. Do we have time for all 3, or do you want to pick one?
No, we'll do all 3.
All right. So Brenda Trask asks, what recommendations do you have for older women who don't always feel brave or are afraid to take risks? It's a great question from Brenda.
Like, my recommendation to you is just do it, right? Like, we did a survey of like who's more joyful, younger women or older women, and who's more likely to take risks. And I thought it was going to be younger women, but it was actually older women, because I always joke, like, older women are kind of like Cardi B, and they're like, forget it. Like, you know what I mean? What do I have to lose? And so, like, take that spirit and go with it. You got nothing to lose, right? Like, you've proved to the world everything already. Now go find the thing that you love.
I love it. Simple, but it is just, that's where it starts. Our next question comes from Sarah West. She says, how do you continue to be strong while being a woman in a male-dominated field while also trying to become a leader?
I've been watching the Michael Jordan documentary. I don't know if you have, Charles, like Last Dance, and the last episode, right, where it's at the end and all the team players are talking about how much they just didn't like Michael Jordan, but he made them better.
Yep. He
was saying that part of being a leader is not actually being liked, but being respected and having people follow you. Like, I believe that. I have never, I should say, as I have grown as a leader, I don't pursue people liking me in the way that I pursue people respecting me, right?
That's the difference.
It's very, very different. And I think it's hard for us as women because, again, we're raised to want people to like us. So it's hard for us to let that go. And I think to become a successful leader, you need to orientate yourself towards wanting people to respect you and not like you. And those are 2 different things.
Big idea there. Hard for people to, take all that innate training that they've had in that, or just being pressed upon them. But again, it does take those steps. Last question from Naomi Love. How do you overcome fear or imposter syndrome when trying to do something great? So many people have that imposter syndrome feeling that, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough to do this? Or I feel like I'm faking it till I make it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, it's a work in progress. Every day it's a work in progress. Even though I write about it, I talk about this, like, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I mean, gosh, like, I am leading a nonprofit organization that's focused on education in the middle of a global pandemic. And every day I feel like sometimes I sit there with my baby and I'd be like, can I do this? Can I be a leader in crisis? I've never done this before. And so I think it's normal for those feelings to come where you question and you doubt yourself. But then I remember that I was born for this moment. And oftentimes we are ready and prepared. And the only thing that is standing in our way is ourselves. And oftentimes I realize I am my biggest enemy. I'm the person who stands in the middle of my greatness because of the doubt that I have and the insecurities that I have. So you have to work on them. And you have to, as crazy it sounds, like, I am in a constant conversation with Reshma. I'm in a constant conversation with myself. When those doubts come up. The other thing I want to say that's really worked for me is, this idea of, like, I write about this in my book, of like doing something you suck at. See, I have once a month, I will pick something that I have told myself I'm not good at, right? Skydiving, surfing, going downhill on a bike, making very rigorous origami ninja shields with my son, whatever that thing is. And I will sit in my frustration. And what normally happens after I complete a task, even if I look like a fool doing it, I'm like, damn, I got that. And, like, when you practice bravery, physical bravery, you know what I mean? In like it actually creates bravery in your personal life. So try it.
I love that. And it actually leads me up to my last question, that you have the book, Brave, Not Perfect, and it was just released on paperback. And, the point you just made is a good one for people to take, but there's a lot of good information in there, a lot of good takeaways.
Yes.
What is the one thing that you're hoping, whether it is to females reading it or males reading it, I'll say females reading it or males smart enough to read it, that you hope that they take away from this book?
That bravery will unlock all of it. That bravery is going to unlock your truest potential and your biggest joy.
Simple enough.
Yep.
Reshma, before we close out today, I want to make sure that we give away those 5 copies of the books that we're going to be giving away. The Brave, Not Perfect. So want to congratulate our members and our viewers who submitted their Twitter questions. So I see that we have the winners up there, Lauren, and a couple of other folks from around the country. So congratulations to you. Our team will be in touch with those. So again, for our viewers today, if you'd like to thank Reshma, you can reach her on Twitter and our social media handles at Reshma Saujani. Yep. And Reshma, anything else to leave with our viewers today?
Thank you so much. I mean, I guess I want to just end by saying, stay strong, stay healthy. And this is a moment, actually, as crazy as it sounds, to take risks, take risks. And, the biggest contribution that you can make in this moment is to help heal, our country. And I think each of you have the potential to do that. So stay safe, stay brave, stay imperfect, and good luck.
Reshma, thank you so much for sharing those words. No better way to end today's session. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for being leaders who make a better world. Have a great day.
Thank you.